Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. Listen, we're going to get right to it. Let me talk about the NFL. This whole show is probably going to be about NFL. What a first week it was. I got to tell you, I saw some bad football. I saw some great football. And I'm going to recognize some standouts as well. Very exciting week of football. You know, starting out with Thursday night's game with Chicago and Green Bay. You saw the effects of not playing your main guys or your stars, not playing your stars in the preseason because that game looked like it was a lot of rust. Offense wasn't in sync. Defense was only on point as we had a lackluster performance in a 10-3 game. But nevertheless, it did heat up on Sunday and in a big way. I'm talking about the comeback of my team, the Eagles, on the Washington Redskins. They started out a little slow in the first half, but they made their way. And you know, sometimes in sports, the better team finds a way to win. The better team prevails. And that's what took place with the Eagles and the Washington. The Eagles found a way to win. And then what a game by Dak Prescott. Just absolutely a great game by Dak Prescott, and you had Brady being Brady, Pittsburgh looking awful. And what about DeShaun Watson? Was that the worst way for a quarterback to lose a game? So we're going to dive right into it all, and we're going to talk about it all. Those who are tuning in, I appreciate you. If you want, make some comments. I'll try to address them. But I want to start with the Dallas game. You know, you didn't expect Zeke to do much. And Zeke, he came out there, I think he rushed for 59 yards. And no matter when as long as he's in a uniform, he's always going to be a threat. But what has happened now, a couple of things. You got the former quarterback out of Boise State now taking over as offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Under Dak Prescott, he's entering his fourth year. He's probably had the best set of weapons out there. Now that you got Randall Cobb in the slot, you have Amari Cooper. Gallup is looking like he's going to be a very reliable and dependable receiver. And then you bring back Jason Witten, and plus you got Zeke in the backfield. And perhaps maybe the best offensive line in the game. And what does that come up against when you're playing one of the worst defensive teams in the NFC, the New York Giants? You get 405 passing yards from Dak Prescott, and he breaks the all-time passer rating with like 100, 158, 155? 158 to be exact? Unbelievable. You know, if there was a bad spot on that game with the Dallas Cowboys, and I know the Cowboy fans don't want to hear this, but if that is any other team that you give up 500 yards to, you lose that game. You can't, think about this. You gave up 500 yards to the Giants. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. But if you gave up 500 yards to the Eagles, to the Rams, to Seattle, to New Orleans, to possibly Green Bay, you probably lose that game. So not to come down on the Cowboys because offensively, you could have played a better game. Dallas Cowboys look great on Sunday with their offense. Dak Prescott for 405 yards. He threw for 405 yards. Two receivers with 100-plus yards. You had Cooper and Gallup. Witten comes back. He gets a touchdown. Again, Zeke, he hasn't been working with the team, but he comes back. He rushes for, I think it is 59 yards. What a performance by the Dallas Cowboys offense. I tell you what, I don't have them as a Super Bowl team, but they are a contender. Let's make no mistakes about it. If the offense continues to be effective in the way it was on Sunday, not matching what they did, but just be as effective, they're Super Bowl contenders. Defense is going to have to work on some things because, again, that's the Giants you gave up 500 yards on. And speaking of the Giants, if there is a bright spot, And he could be. I know the Cowboy fans don't want to hear this either. And he could be. Saquon Barkley's a beast. This guy had 11 carries for 120 yards. There is a bright spot for the New York Giants. That guy is a beast. Saquon Barkley is going to be a problem in this league. And if I'm the Giants, I'm building an offensive line around him. And I'm getting some wide receivers to come to play alongside of him. Because this guy here, you want to keep him in your fold for at least the next 10 years. Because the way players are operating today, and whether it's basketball or football, and we've seen it in basketball with the Paul George, we seen it just a couple of days ago with the Antonio Brown, they find a way to get themselves out of a contract or off a team. They find their way. And if you don't put a winning product and surround it around Saquon Barkley, I can see in 2 years, if you guys are still struggling to win 5 to 6 games, he may looking to be out. And that's not what you want to hear if you're a Giant fan. The Saquon Barkley could be the number one back in this game. Make no mistakes about it. Could be the number one running back in this game. 11 carries, 120 yards. Unbelievable. And what's so great about that is that they're going to him. In fact, I don't know why Giants didn't give him the ball more often. The guy was averaging over 10 yards a carry. Why not give him the ball more? Apparently, the Cowboys couldn't stop him. But that sums up the Giants' seasons right there. I believe the Giants will be a 5-win season. It's a 5-win season this year for the Giants. I believe there's a 5-win season for the Giants. And I believe by week 7 or week 6, Daniel Jones will be in the huddle calling plays. Now, those who know me, I'm a Jets fan and an Eagles fan. The reason why I became a Jets fan when we was kids growing up, it seemed like at the time in the early mid-70s, either you was a Steelers fan or a Cowboy fan. At that time, I was rooting for the Steelers. My favorite player was Mean Joe Green. But I couldn't escape the Jets because my dad was a big-time Jet fan. And it was Sunday afternoons. We would sit around and watch the football games together. In fact, that was the only sport that my dad actually went to every practice and went to games when I played. Unfortunately, I only played 1 year of Pee Wee football because I rather basketball. I was an indoor guy during the wintertime, not an outdoor guy. But Dad and I would sit around and watch football games, and because of that, I became a Jet fan. I'm an Eagle fan because I always heard about the city of brotherly love, and in the mid-'80s, they had Randall Cunningham, and again, for 30 years, they had a black quarterback. That's why I root for the Eagles. And until Chip Kelly came in and destroyed that, I'm still an Eagle fan. So Jets and Eagles. If the Jets and the Eagles were to play each other, I'm rooting for the Jets first. That's how it goes. But speaking of the Jets, it's the same old Jets. Not that they can't find a way to win. They continue to find a way to lose. This is a game that if, as a Jet personnel, not just us fans that are Jet fans, as a Jets personnel, if you had aspiration of making the playoffs or coming close to making the playoffs, these are the type of games that you have to win. You're at home. It's the first game of the season. You got new uniform. You got new players. Mosley was a beast out there. He was a beast. He gets hurt, and it's like we can't play anymore. But he was a beast out there doing it all. But we found a way to lose a game to the Buffalo Bills. We were up in that game. There's no reason why we should lose that game. I mean, it started with the missed extra point. Ironically, we lost by 1 point. What's going on here? The New York Jets For years and years and years, it's always been just in the season. And this particular time, coming into the season, the Jets looked like they were on the right side of 8-8, like they could be a 10-6 team. Le'Veon Bell, he came in there. He didn't look too bad. But again, he didn't have no burn in the preseason. He didn't have no burn in the preseason. So, I mean, he could have did more if maybe he played more. But this is a game that we had to secure. You know, it's funny, and I'm going to go on the record and say this. It's only week 2. But there's a few teams out there in week 2 that got must-win games. And the Jets is one of them. Donald, you look like you're going to be the real deal. You look like you could be a franchise quarterback. But you got to make some of these passes. In crucial time, we just can't go 3 and out. We need you to find a way. Find a way. We got a game coming up Monday night, which is nice. Monday night, playing Cleveland Browns. That's going to be a huge game. And to me, if you have aspirations of making the playoffs, this has playoffs implications because at the same time, the Cleveland Browns is in the same boat as you. Cleveland Browns had aspirations not only of making the playoffs, but winning a division. Winning a division. So they're not going to come into Monday night's game and just, play like a team that's lost. They're coming out here for the win. This is going to be a huge game. And at the rate you're going, this could have wild card tiebreaker implications. Now, I'm a fan of the Jets. I don't think that the Jets is a playoff team, especially when you have bad losses against the Buffalo Bills at home when you're up leading in the fourth quarter and you allow 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. I know that they're not quite a playoff team, but 9-7 look reachable. 10-6 didn't look like it was far-fetched. But when you have those type of losses, you're looking at 7-9, 6-10. And you can forget about the thoughts of splitting with New England because New England looked like 14-2 and Antonio Brown hasn't even suited up. Who, by the way, I think will be a model citizen in the New England Patriots organization. So the Jets, you need to bring it Monday night if there's any slightest chance that you're a playoff team or you just want to be on the right side of 8-8 to have some momentum going into next year. Because otherwise we're on our way to another just in the season Jets. I can't believe I'm saying this after week 1, but with a loss like that, it's just horrific. Horrific. The only good thing we know that the Jets will probably get 2 automatic wins against Miami because right now Miami is looking like a Division II college team. They got players that wants out. They lost to the Baltimore Ravens 59-10. There's already words around the league that they're fighting for the Tua Bowl. But I just want to talk about this. I know a win's a win, a loss is a loss. The score doesn't mean anything. But how about Lamar Jackson? How about Lamar Jackson? The guy that they said, man, if you want to make it in the NFL, you need to change your position. Now, listen, I know Miami's Miami. They perhaps might be the worst team in the NFL. And they may be playing as that and want to be that. But to do what he did, and I'm talking about just outstanding numbers. 17 for 20, I believe, 324 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson. It's got to be one of the standouts. Along with Dak, that's got to be one of the standouts. One of the standouts from the first week. Just excellent. Can't ask for anything more from that. They beat up on Miami, 59-10. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Good to see that the Eagles pulled it out they had me worried in the first half because one thing about week one, if you're playing a division foe and you happen to lose, it's almost like 2 losses and 1 loss. And I'm glad that they were able to pull it out with a come from behind win. I tell you what, DeShaun Jackson is back. I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to wait because I like to know what receiver in the history of the NFL averages more yards per catch. I'm not talking about yak. I'm just talking about when he catches the ball, it's already 40 yards from in the air. Maybe he picks up extra 10. DeShaun Jackson comes back to Philly and helped them with a come from behind win. And got to give credit to Wentz. He got it up there. But DeShaun Jackson had 2 50-plus yard touchdowns. Unbelievable. Another standout from the weekend. 2 50-yard-plus touchdown passes, catches. Just unbelievable. This is the guy, he's not Jerry Rice. He's not Randy Moss. He's not Antonio Brown. He's his own guy. But he's DeShaun Jackson. And it ain't many like him to play the game. Man, every time he catches the ball, it's 40 yards on that play or plus. I mean, he moves the chains. He changes the field of position because, again, you at your 25, he catches the ball, you're somewhere on the 35 going downfield. Excellent game by DeShaun Jackson. I believe he had 8 catches for 150-plus yards, 2 touchdowns, and again, for 50 or more yards. Unbelievable. Good to see that Philly kept their poise. As I said, that would have been a disastrous loss against the Washington Redskins, who, by the way, let me say something about them. If they can get a steady offense together, they do got some defense over there. So just look out for them. If they can get some offense to surround that defense is not that bad. Washington, right now, I think Washington is a 7-9 team, possibly 8-8. And remember this, I don't put a lot of stock in Casey Keenum, but the last time Minnesota went to the playoffs, he was their quarterback. And last year, Washington's quarterback went to Minnesota and did not make the playoff, Kirk Cousins. Think about that for a second. So, but with that said, great win by the Eagles. They come into my neck of the woods. They're facing Atlanta Sunday night. I think that's going to be a tough road game. Atlanta laid an egg in Minnesota. I don't know what happened with them. Maybe Julio Jones was still at the ATM trying to make that deposit of the $64 million guaranteed. So I don't know what happened to Atlanta. When you look at Atlanta's offense, you could pretty much put them up against anyone. But they laid an egg in that Minnesota game. They didn't do well at all. I look for them to come home, get in front of their fans, and look to try to avenge that loss and try to take it out on the Eagles. But if the Eagles has aspirations, which I know they do, of returning back to the Super Bowl, and I know Carson Wentz, particularly more than anybody else on that team, because he's always been injured. He doesn't finish the season, and some people credit Nick Foles opposed to him. He would like to have not only an injury-free season, but he would like the opportunity to compete in the Super Bowl and prove that he can win the Super Bowl. If that's the case, Carson, then we need this win Sunday night. We can't come out here and not win on the road. And it doesn't look like the Falcons got it yet. So we need this win. I look for the Eagles to come out to Atlanta and after that come from behind win and working out some of the kinks and getting a little rhythm. I look for them to come out here and get that win. But great come from behind win for the Eagles. Again, there was some great games. Speaking of bad teams, listen, I know a lot of people out there that are Steelers fans. And I'm going to tell you, I had the Steelers beating New England going into Sunday night's game. I thought with the losses of Bell, the losses of Antonio Brown, I thought that the Steelers was going to come out and prove that we don't need them. We can do this. I was completely wrong. The Pittsburgh Steelers were worse than the Miami Dolphins on Sunday night. And the reason why I say they were worse than the Miami Dolphins on Sunday night, because the Miami Dolphins is just a bad team. The Steelers are a playoff contending team. But whatever Steelers team that was that showed up at Foxborough Sunday night don't need to show up again for any games. They need to come with their coach, Mike Tomlin, and they need to come correct. That was an awful display of football by a professional organization such as the Pittsburgh Steelers. That might have been their worst loss in history. 33-3. They did not have a chance. The game was over by the time the national anthem was done with. Just unbelievable. And I believe Pittsburgh, they play, you're talking about maybe a must-win game for a team. I think Seattle going into Pittsburgh is a must-win for Pittsburgh. Because here's the thing. I don't know what Baltimore Ravens team we're going to see, but they're 1-0. But if the Steelers start off 0-2, the only good thing that about those two losses that they won't be division losses. But if they start off 0-2, that's not a good look for any team that wants to make the playoffs. And, you know, the Chargers is not a bad team. Houston, you know, they avenged that loss from New Orleans. But there's a few teams. Tennessee could compete for a wild card. Baltimore, Cleveland could compete for a wild card. So Pittsburgh, if they don't come out strong this coming week at home with Seattle coming in there, it could be a long season. You know, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. And I don't think they will have a losing season this year. But if they don't win this game coming up, it puts them on the back burner where they have to win a string of games. And I always remind people, because I think often we lose sight of this. In the NFL, it's not like basketball or baseball. Baseball has 162 games. Basketball has 82 games. Football has 16 games. Just 16 games. You lose 3 or 4 games in a row, your season is done. Your season is done. So I'm going on record to all you Pittsburgh fans out there. This is a must-win game for them. Seattle's coming in there. Seattle's no slouch. I mean, Russell Wilson does not top anybody's top 5 quarterback list right now. But all he does is just wins and goes to the playoffs just about every year. You know, and they talk about he was a recipient of the defense. Well, since he won the Super Bowl, he did go back. But every year they lose players on the defensive side. Whether it was Sherman, whether it's Michael Bennett, Earl Thomas now, and others to say the name. And occasionally they reload, like they just traded for Jadeveon Clowney. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson, all he does is just win. He just wins. And if you think that he's not going into Pittsburgh and not looking to get a win, you're fooling yourself. This guy's capable of winning on the road. So Pittsburgh, to me, this is a must-win for them in week 2. Plain and simple. It is a must-win for them in week 2. I want to talk about, I'm not a firm believer of this. I don't think you can get a win in a loss. You just can't. But if there is ever such a moment where you can have a moral victory when you lose a game, it has to go to DeShaun Watson. What I watched last night was just phenomenal. I'm talking about phenomenal. And those who don't know who DeShaun Watson is, he's the quarterback of the Houston Texans that prior to going to the Houston Texans was the star quarterback out of Clemson that went to back-to-back title games against Alabama and threw for 405 yards in his first game and lost. And then came back and threw for 425 yards the next time and beat him. The guy's a solid player. He's a great player. He's a Russell Wilson-like kind of player, maybe with a stronger arm, but the guy's a solid player. I didn't think they would beat New Orleans last night. I had New Orleans win. I thought it would be a tough game on the road. Should have won that game last night. He did everything that he could do to make sure they can win that game. They had the lead. New Orleans battled back, took the lead. I think it was like 2 minutes left in the game or less, whatever it was. And this guy I think it was less than 2 minutes, like a minute and change. This guy comes out, gets the ball at the 25, throws 2 passes, completes 2 passes only, and we got a touchdown. And we have a touchdown. And that Clemson connection, and they didn't play together, but I'm sure they worked out together while he was at Clemson. But him and DeAndre Hopkins, who I think, and I'm going on record, DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver in the game. Hands down. Hands down. Yeah, Antonio Brown is nice, but he played with a Hall of Fame quarterback. Matt Ryan has won an MVP. So Julio Jones has played with a consistent quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins plays with different quarterbacks damn near every single year. DeShaun Watson hasn't played a complete season, and yet this guy is top 3 in the league every year. DeAndre Hopkins is the real deal, guys. And I'm on record saying he's the number 1 quarterback in the game. I mean, number 1 wide receiver, pardon me. The number 1 wide receiver in the game, DeAndre Hopkins. What DeShaun Watson and he put that display they put on towards the end of the game last night to take that lead was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I don't think you could do it in Madden, and I don't think you could draw it up any better than that. The loss goes to the defensive coordinator that had these guys playing 25 yards off the line of scrimmage instead of pressuring the ball and making it too easy for them to throw a little dinker. And I don't know the rules clearly, but to me, I'm not familiar with the rule that the offensive player can give himself up, go on the ground, and even if he's not touched, call timeout. Because I thought that the defensive player shouldn't have touched him because the time could have ran out. Because I'm under the impression a dead ball is when the player is down. If the defender doesn't touch the player, how is he down? And how are the play dead? And how are they able to call a timeout? I'm going to have to look into the rules. Someone sent me the rules and said that if a player goes down, even if he's not touched, he can give himself up and call timeout. I didn't know about that rule. I thought that once a player goes down, he has to be touched by the defender for the play to become dead, because I'm screaming at the set to the defender on Houston, don't touch him. The time would have ran out. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the rules. But that was a great finish. Drew Brees being Drew Brees. And if DeShaun Watson can stay healthy, the Houston Texans need to beef up that offensive line. He got sacked 6 times, for crying out loud. The guy has a chance to be a top 10 quarterback in this league. He has a chance to be a top 10 quarterback in this league. DeShaun Watson. You need to block for this guy. Again, let me remind you who he is. He's the guy that played in back-to-back college championships against the beefy defensive line of Alabama and threw for 400-plus yards each game. Beef up that offensive line. DeShaun Watson is a player in this league. And again, DeAndre Hopkins is the number one receiver in the game. Keep him off the ground. He can make things happen. They should have came away with that win. Again, I don't believe there's moral victories and losses, but if there's such a thing, DeShaun Watson got a moral victory in the eyes of many. Because what he put on last night in that final minute to come away with that touchdown pass, to throw two passes from and get into the end zone starting at the 25 was just tremendous. Just tremendous. Just tremendous. I look for them to bounce back next week. I think they play Jacksonville. But, man, what a finish. That was a great finish to a game. Again, Drew Brees being Drew Brees. There's a quite a few quarterbacks in this league that there's never too little time for them, especially if they got timeouts. You know, they're smart. They know what to do. They pretty much can do it with their eyes closed. And Drew Brees, he showed that he's one of the great ones. And perhaps maybe top 15 to ever play this game in the quarterback position. Yeah, Drew Brees might be top 15 quarterback all time. I never put the list together, but if someone said he is, I'm not going to debate him. Drew Brees is special. He's special. You know, Kyler Murray, what a job he did this weekend. To see him, I think that Arizona is a rebuilding team. I think Miami is probably the worst team in football, but Arizona is not going to be too far from them. But to see Kyler Murray come out there and put on the performance that he did, it's tremendous. The fact that they came away with the tie, I think that was awesome for them. I had them losing. You know, Matt Stafford, to me, he don't win the money games, and maybe he doesn't have the team to help him win the money games. But Matt Stafford is a top 15 player, a top 15 quarterback in this league right now. Maybe borderline top 10. You put him on a team where you got some weapons and you got a complete team, he'll do something special for you. But I thought Detroit would go into Arizona and get the win, and you got to be impressed with what Arizona did. Kyler Murray looks like he's the real deal. I think his height is going to hurt him. As you've seen a couple of times, he threw a couple of balls and they got batted down. But he's going to be special. And, I look for him in Arizona to have a steady progress of growth. You know, they may win 3 games this year, 5 games the following year, 6, 7 the year after, and then slowly but surely they'll start getting some. Hopefully they hit on their draft picks because they should be around the top 5 for at least the next 3 years. So if they hit on their draft picks, they'll start climbing and getting into the right direction. It may take a little while, but hey, it happens. Let it grow. Let it build. If I'm them, I'm getting some offensive linemen. I'm beefing up on that line, and I'm looking for a wide receiver to replace Fitzgerald. He can't play forever. He's trying. I mean, he's up there with Brady and Brees. He's trying to play forever, but you want to get that next receiver while he is there, because what better wide receiver to learn with? And I can see Larry Fitzgerald, upon his retirement, remaining with the team. So that would be good. But, but I failed to mention this. You guys heard me talk about Zeke Elliott. I think he's the best running back in the game. And I think he's going to be challenged quickly by Saquon Barkley. There's some Giant fans that I know personally that says Barkley is the number 1 running back in the game. And you know what? I'm not going to even debate them. I just going to say I stick with Zeke right now. But Kamara may have something to say about that. And let me tell you something about Kamara. He's a problem. He's a problem. I think a running back should be a runner, because that's why the name is called running back. But if you got the ability to do so, or have the ability to use a running back in a way like they use Kamara, having him come out of the backfield, catching passes, going across the middle on a little 7-yard slant that turns into 40 yards, then why not? The guy is a problem in open space. Kamara is a problem. He's the one, not Brees, but he's the one that actually won that football game for him. Yeah, Brees put the final exclamation on it by getting him into field goal range. But if this guy doesn't come out in the second half and does what he does, whether it was catching balls out of the backfield or just going up the middle with it, he is a complete package. And on top of that, Kamara is a complete problem. With him and Brees, and then don't forget Michael Thomas. He signed that new contract. He had 10 catches for 120 yards. This offense is still one of the game's best. It's probably a top 5 offense in the league. But Kamara, he's a problem. He's a problem. And you talk about offenses. We can't talk about offenses if we don't talk about Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. What a display that they put on. My man Shady McCoy, he goes over there. I don't even know if he knows the playbook, but what he do knows, he knows Andy Reid. And Andy Reid knows him. And as a result of it, Shady was being shady. What did he have? 8 carries for 81 yards? Or 10 carries for 81 yards? And if you got a legitimate running back in that offense, if you have a legitimate running back in that offense with Pat Mahomes, who's throwing for 400 yards almost every game, watch out for Kansas City. Their weakness is their defense. If they can find a way to shore up their defense, they're going to be all right. I mean, Pat Mahomes, he threw for 378 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. Like I said, Shady had 10 carries for 81 yards. Yeah, that Kansas City team is going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem. I look for them to, before the season started, I look for them to host the AFC Championship game and take out New England and go to the Super Bowl. But with the acquisition of Antonio Brown, I don't think that's going to happen. I see New England 14-2 hosting the AFC Championship game and getting back to the Super Bowl to play the Eagles. I had Kansas City and the Eagles. It is now going to be Patriots and Eagles. Yeah. Good friend of mine, Cole, he's talking about the Giants choke. Yeah, I spoke on the Giants. It's not that the Giants choke. It's just not that good. I mean, their bright spot is Barkley, and it is bright. It is very bright. Very bright. But the Giants, they're a 5-win team, if that. And they just better hit on their draft picks and build around this guy before he starts talking about he wants out. He wants out. But Shady going to Kansas City is a sneaky pickup. I was hoping for a reunion back in the Eagles, but he went with somebody that he very familiar with, and Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is going to get the best of him. So we'll see what happens. But Kansas City looks like a real problem. But again, week 1, I thought it was a great week 1. Started out lackluster with the performance of Packers and the Bears 10-3. It wasn't that it was a smash mouth defensive game. It's just you can see rust from star players not playing. But it did pick up over the weekend because those who played Sunday may have got that one extra practice on Thursday that made them ready for Sunday. And it was some good games on Sunday. Some disappointing moments. I thought that the Falcons was very disappointing. I thought the Steelers was absolutely the worst team of the weekend because they have aspirations of making the playoff. I thought the Jets had one of the most devastating losses. Well, not as devastating as the Houston loss, but the only difference with the Houston loss, they were a road team and not a home team. The Jets was a home team, and they gave up 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. That's hard to swallow, so bad on them. But hopefully they have a chance to redeem themselves next week. So the games that I got circled for next week that I keep an eye on, Dallas goes into Washington. What Dallas did this weekend was very impressive on the offensive end, but yet they gave up 500 plus yards. They gave up 500 plus yards to the Giants. They do that to any other team, especially a team with playoff aspiration. They probably go down. So I want to see what Dallas does in Washington. One thing about Washington, they got a solid defense. Casey Keenum is not bad as a quarterback, but he's a journeyman that kind of like Fitzmagic a little bit, where he can do well for you, but I don't know if he can just take you there. So we'll see what happens with that one. But that Dallas on the road in Washington is going to be a tough game. I think Philly coming to Atlanta is going to be a tough game on Sunday night, but I got the Eagles pulling that one out. I definitely want to keep an eye on Cleveland and the Jets. That's going to be a good game. Both teams looking to be improved. They got young quarterbacks. I'm looking at that as being a solid matchup. Monday night, they're both going to, will the stage be too bright for either team? Who will seize the moment? Who has the bigger star? Is Odell bigger than Le'Veon Bell? Is Le'Veon Bell going to go back to the Pittsburgh days and maybe give us 120 yards on the ground, maybe 50 yards in the air? It's going to be a solid game come Monday night. A lot of attention. Is the Browns all hype, or are they a solid team? Are they all hype, or are they a contender? The fact that Pittsburgh lost, did that help the Browns if their moment was to try to seize the division? So here's the deal. They're going to need a win too. So I think it's a must-win for Cleveland, just as it's a must-win for the Jets. And you got Chicago and Denver. I think that's going to be a tough game as well. Denver lost to Oakland Raiders, who I have no faith in. I think they're a 5-6 win team at best. I thought Denver was going to pull out that win. Should have known, being that it was on the road. Both teams are 0-1. Chicago has aspirations of winning the division. They need this game. They were on the road. Denver needs this win as well. So it could be a good game. So I'm looking at that game. And then I mentioned the Seattle and Pittsburgh game. Russell Wilson does not lay down no matter where he plays. That's going to be a good game. So, week 2 is shaping up. Could be a solid game, solid week. And hopefully I see you back here next week and we chop it up again. This is Chopping It Up with Ramel. Appreciate all of you. Talk to you soon. Peace and blessings.